views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Living Heaven on Earth. I'm here today with Dennis Gaither. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Hey, welcome, Kornelia. Thank you.
It's wonderful to be here with you, co-creating Heaven on Earth, Living Heaven on Earth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise, it's a delight.
It is, and I love the topic that you're bringing us today. In our notes that you prepared, you dedicated this topic right now to who walks beside you. If you knew who walks beside you on the way that you have chosen, fear would be impossible. A Course in Miracles. Many are aware that A Course in Miracles came about through a process of inner dictation between 1965 and 1972 via a voice that spoke through Helen Schucman and Bill Thetford, clinical psychologists at Columbia University Medical Center. The nature and quality of that voice was so compelling that Helen and Bill considered themselves to be the Course's scribes, not its true authors. This program is joyful celebration of that voice, Jesus, the author of A Course in Miracles. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Dennis, I'm so excited that you brought this because many people love The Course in Miracles and are practicing students of The Course in Miracles. And you yourself have been a student for a long time. How long has that been, actually?
Oh, goodness. Well, I first encountered the Course probably about almost 28, 29 years ago, but a serious student for about the last 20 years. So it's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And you actually are, you facilitate meetings at you're a host of it.
I do. I facilitate, well, I consider myself a host of a meeting. We meet at my home every week on Wednesday evenings. We've been doing it for, 18 or 19 years, something like that. And I've also sometimes teach workshops, especially with themes of forgiveness and healing.
Yes. Now, did you ever find the idea of Jesus as the author difficult or challenging?
Oh my goodness. I did at first. And in retrospect, it was based on a lot of preconceptions of what I thought that meant. As I've talked about in earlier conversations, but I'll just briefly restate, my earlier times with the Course were pretty rocky. I didn't like the way that it was worded. I found it pretty challenging to understand it. But in the process of working my way through the lessons, I also found it to be really transformative and quite compelling based on its impact. But one of the things that I kind of struggled with a little bit was the idea of the authorship of it. And the Course is very clear from the way the author speaks in first person that it's Jesus. And I had, some preconceptions based on early childhood experiences of kind of an extended family that was grounded in a very fundamentalist form of Christianity that I just found, there are many aspects of it that I found that I just wasn't just couldn't resonate with at all. And so I put all mentions of Jesus in the same box based on that. But nonetheless, I continued with the course and continued kicking and screaming with Jesus as its author. And for whatever reason, at some point, sometimes you get the feeling somebody's in charge of this thing that's smarter than I am. But I went through a minister training program through a group called Pathways of Light.
Oh.
And they still have that program. It took me about 3 years to get through, a lot of self-study, but a lot of guided meditations. And the focus of the program is about connecting with your own inner guidance. And there was one particular course there that the focus was on really connecting with your own source of inner wisdom. And there was a guided meditation that would guide you to come into a place of relaxing kind of calmness and hopefully receptivity, and then invite some symbol to come forth as a way of just helping you to connect with it, kind of as a bridge. And it didn't really specify what that symbol might be. And now I have to say, guided meditations are not my favorite. I kind of, my mind wanders or I go to sleep. And I think the first 2 times I tried this one, that's what happened. But I was determined. So the third time, the meditation guides me to this kind of quiet inner space, and it invites some symbol to arise. And basically it's inviting your unconscious, my unconscious, to show me something, or I say unconscious or higher wisdom to show me something. And what arises quite spontaneously was Jesus. And the image that presented was the exact same one hanging on my grandmother's wall, kind of the Northern European looking guy, quite unlikely to be someone born in the Middle East 2,000 years ago. And I was kind of upset by that. And I argued with it a bit. It's like, okay, this is all inside this meditation. Okay, if you really looked like that, if you really existed, I think that's the way I phrased it. If you really existed, you would have been, Semitic and Middle Eastern looking. Where's the olive-skinned Middle Eastern guy, right? And so why are you coming to me like this? And the answer that I got back is one of those ones that was so compelling because I knew it was true, but it's also one I knew I wouldn't have thought of on my own. And the answer that I got back was, this is what you need to heal.
Ooh. And
that just really, it's like, as soon as I heard that, I thought, that's right. That's what I needed to heal, were all the things that I have projected onto that image that were keeping me from actually knowing what the real presence was. And so what really evolved from that was I got to do some healing about all the things I projected onto that image of Jesus, which was basically a lot of things based on my own beliefs and experiences. But what developed was actually a wonderful relationship in which it feels like I have this kindly brother with me all the time. Not that it's in my forefront of my awareness all the time, but that it's always there. I want to read you a quote here from A Course in Miracles, and that so resonates with what that early experience and subsequently was. And it goes, walking with him is just as natural as walking with a brother whom you've known since you were born, for such indeed he is. Some bitter idols have been made of him, who would be only brother to the world. Forgive him your illusions, and behold how dear a brother he would be to you, for he will set your mind at rest and carry it with you unto your God. The bitter idols that I had made of him, which certainly not unique to me, but they were mine, were all the various judgments and preconceptions of what me personally and maybe parts of our culture have made out of Jesus. But I experienced, so there was such a sense of peace and a sense of calm with it. And it really became irrelevant to me whether that image that I saw was really what this historical figure may have looked like. It was, in a certain way, that was a symbol that helped me connect with something much deeper. But it was a useful one.
Very useful, because it
Very
really helped you
useful.
to see. It helped you to see, first of all, your the place that needed to be healed, the
Mhm.
projection that you were putting out, helped you to see that, right?
It actually helped me to do that and to transform it from some kind of something that I had a lot of maybe fear about to something that felt very comfortable, and became kind of a helpful presence of being, in a time of, I can remember that more than once this has happened in some place of kind of time of being in some situation. It's like feeling like, I don't know, I don't think I can do, feeling kind of overwhelmed, like doing this. And I kind of turn inward, listen to that quiet voice, and I hear laughing, kind of a gentle kind of laugh, not a derisive, but a kind sort of laugh that just says, of course you can't, but we can.
Mm,
And it's sort of like, okay, there's somebody here with me in this.
yeah.
And if you knew who walks beside you.
Yeah. And now, is that, after you had that experience, would you say that 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 rebelliousness, maybe the resistance that you were feeling initially ahead of time about the course, and that Jesus is the author of the course, and your resistance to, what you were talking about earlier, about you really didn't, you really, had your challenges with it. You had your challenge.
Uh-huh.
That after that you had that experience, would you say that you were more receptive and open to now embracing the Course of Miracles?
Well, I would say it was part of an evolving process of embracing. I would say it wasn't so much embracing the course as using the course as a helpful guide to embracing a larger presence within. And it's a work in progress even to now, to be able to just access and trust that presence within more and more. So it's not like I make the course the idol. It's more the course is something that's been helpful to me to access that presence within, that abiding presence.
Access what's already within you, so that you can
That's right.
fully see it, and that you can fully accept what is already
Right.
there.
And I'll say that kind of that resistance is almost universal to something that it's kind of like if who we think we are as this individual, if who I think I am as a Dennis here, and you think you're a Kornelia, and we all think that's what we are. If we're convinced that's what we are, we're not going to turn loose of that all of a sudden. You can't let go of something if you think that's what you are. There has to be a growing awareness that there's something else inside that starts to feel like more, that's truly who I am. And it's then that we can start to let go of our self-concepts and the kind of the false self, what we might call the ego self, the separate self. But that's for almost everybody, that's a process, and we have bumps that kind of get in our way. I experience them in myself, and I can have great compassion for when I witness them in pretty much everybody else too. We all have them.
Yes.
And so we just be patient with ourselves.
Yeah. As would Christ, as would Jesus, be patient with us.
Yes, that's been well demonstrated, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well demonstrated.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back with The Course in Miracles, Dennis Gaither. We'll see you in a few moments.
Are you an entrepreneur who's struggling to be seen? Do you know deep in your gut that if you could just be seen and get your message out, that you'd easily reach your tribe? How wonderful would it be if a fairy godmother came along, waved her magic wand, and suddenly you were more than visible? You were dazzling. Would you sign up for that? Hi, I'm Deborah Lupien, spiritual teacher and international best-selling author of Akasha Unleashed, The Missing Manual to You. I'm here with the wonderful news that such a person actually exists. Her name is Kornelia Stephanie, and she's gifted at helping entrepreneurs become dazzling. I've watched her work her magic over and over to turn invisible entrepreneurs into dazzling stars who easily attract their ideal clients and have fun doing it. Not long ago, I was the recipient of her gift. As a guest on her show, Living Heaven on Earth, not only did we have fun, but Kornelia helped me get my message out to a wider audience, which resulted in a very nice spike of traffic to my website and more subscribers to my list. Did I mention it was incredibly easy? Kornelia's running a veritable media empire of uplifting programs. They cover a broad range of topics and have a large appreciative audience. That's a winning combination, folks. Guess what? Those shows need guests and hosts. Imagine, after guesting on a few shows, moving up to hosting your own popular show. That is absolutely possible for you. So now you have a decision to make. Are you going to keep struggling on your own, or are you going to sign up for some Kornelia Stephanie dazzling visibility magic? Email radio@korneliastephanie.com today.
Back, you're listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, and Dennis and I are talking about Jesus as the author of the Course in Miracles. And during the break, we were talking about what are some of the compelling things that you found, Dennis, with Jesus in teaching the Course in Miracles. What are some of the ways that stood out for you? The quality, some of the quality.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Certainly. So, because Jesus speaks, and especially in the early parts, he speaks in the first person, but then in what he teaches, moved me the deeper I went into it, the more I understood that not only could I feel a really loving presence inside, that was a huge gift, but also what he was saying was quite different than what I grew up imagining Jesus, or the representations of Jesus that I heard growing up were. It was actually a much more inclusive voice, and a much more universal. I mean, I can give you a few examples here.
You do.
Yeah, one of the ones that impressed me a lot was that that in A Course in Miracles, Jesus really disavows the whole idea that he is uniquely divine any more than the rest of us. We are all divine. We are all children. We're all extensions of God. And so he really gives the message of don't exalt me, don't put me on a pedestal. But he offers himself as a loving brother or as a companion on the path. Kind of much in the way of someone who says, yes, I've been there where you are. I know what this is like. I found a way out, and I'll share that way out with you. Let me read you a couple quotes here, because I love the way he says it here. So this is very early in the Course, where he says, equals should not be in awe of one another, because awe applies inequality. It's therefore an inappropriate reaction to me. There's nothing, I love this, there's nothing about me that you cannot attain. I have nothing that doesn't come from God. The difference between us now is that I have nothing else. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a lovely motivator. The difference between where we are and where Jesus is this stuff we've got that we can let go of. But this next one comes from a much later time in the Course here. I take the journey with you, for I share your doubts and fears a little while, that you may come to me who recognize the road by which all fears and doubts are overcome. We walk together. I must understand uncertainty and pain, although I know they have no meaning. Yet a Savior must remain with those he teaches, seeing what they see, but still retaining in his mind the way that led him out, and now will lead you out with him. I find that there's so much tenderness and compassion and empathy in that. I get it. I get that this is a difficult path in this world, but there's a way out. So I feel understood, and but also inspired, and also there's a sense of I'm not finding my way out of this by myself. There's always a voice I can come back to, and that's what I keep coming back to that, because that's what's the most important thing. The other, though, go ahead.
I was going to ask you now, you because you facilitate the course. So a lot of the people that come to your home that experience this with, do they also feel that way, that they have found a relationship with Jesus inside of them? Is that the
I don't know that everybody would say it's Jesus. I don't know that everybody would use that as their symbol.
okay?
Many people in the Course do, because the Course uses that as one of its symbols.
Right.
But, so the Course also uses things like voice for love and things like that. And I think most people have experienced some sort of an inkling of that. That's what draws them to pursue any kind of a spiritual path. We got a glimpse. And it's so we got a glimpse of something, and then we're wanting to come closer to that light or that warmth, that love. And there are many ways of doing that. And one of the things I do like about the Course, it doesn't say that this is the path or the course. It says it's a course, it's a path, and it completely acknowledges the validity of others as well.
One of the questions that come to me about the Course is the teachings of the Course. Does it say that you have to have a belief in Jesus in order to?
No, it doesn't at all. That was one of the things that it's very clear. I'll read you. Let me read you a quote here. This comes from way back in the back of it. That I just love this. So it's possible to read his words, i.e. Jesus's words. It's possible to read his words and benefit from them without accepting them into your life. Yet he would help you a little more if you'll share your pains and joys with him and leave them both to find the peace of God.
Mm.
So it's like you're completely free. You don't have to believe in any specific symbol, really, or person. But I do find by having a kind of a companion inside, just to share with, that it makes it a lot easier. It just makes it a lot easier. And many people have found the same thing. And I think that abiding presence is the gift of any genuine spiritual path, regardless of how, what name you want to call it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. The quotes, they really speak to you, don't they? They really touch the essence of truth when you read, when I'm listening to you share the quotes, share that message, because it really, really resonates as truth.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have a couple more here about that idea about exclusiveness that I can share with you here.
Please do.
This one says, is he God's only helper? No, indeed. For Christ takes many forms with different names until their oneness can be recognized. Are other teachers possible to lead the way to those who speak in different tongues and appeal to different symbols? Certainly there are. Would God leave anyone without a very present help in time of trouble, a savior who can symbolize himself? Yet do we need a many-faceted curriculum, not because of content differences, but because symbols must shift and change to suit the need. Jesus has come to answer yours. I don't know. This is almost beyond words. There's such a deep understanding of that. I can feel the kind of the loving presence that really moves through Jesus as well, that he's sort of a representative of.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful that you have cultivated a personal relationship with that inner guidance, that voice that was asking you to go within, right? And now you have cultivated that relationship and you're listening to it. You are intuiting it, and it has become part of you. So it's just a beautiful way to trust what that inner savior, that inner essence is communicating with you.
Right. I would say that that's the case. And it's also because I've worked with other spiritual teachers and other traditions as well. And I find that the tradition or the teacher or the teaching, it really, there's a certain kind of quality. They all kind of come to the same place. And and so so I have friends that are oh gosh, well, I had a spiritual teacher who was from a Jewish tradition. I have studied with Sufi teachers, and there is kind of a certain deep quality of essence within all of those uh, that I don't know, that the truth seems to be in the experience of the heart. One of my favorite kind of concepts from the Course has to do with that human beings are never going to agree on a theology, but that there's a universal experience that's inevitable. And I have experienced that a number of times, which gives me kind of a freedom to just appreciate that essence, regardless of where I am, what part of the world I am, who I'm with, or what the specific belief systems that anyone might have. It's kind of like, okay, I can feel the love in that. I can feel the joy in that. It doesn't matter what you call it.
And it's true, because when we think about God, and God doesn't exclude anyone. He doesn't leave anyone out. Doesn't leave any person, any religion, anything out. Anything that keeps the exclusion going, the illusion of the separation, which is the illusion, because
Absolutely.
right, because we've never been separate. It's that we are remembering that we have never been separate, and
Right.
that's the illusion that we're healing through whatever way, whatever spiritual practice engages your inner spirit, right, to get closer into that communion with God, with Source, with love, with Yahshua, with Jesus, with the Course in Miracles.
Yeah, with Allah, whatever it is all fine for me. It's sort of like that place inside. There's a place inside that's sort of the lighthouse. It's like a lighthouse, and and it's a place of coming back to, and I can sense when I am not there, which I have many of those kind of moments. It's like, okay, I can feel the constriction, I can feel the discomfort. Take a breath for a moment, and kind of turn towards the discomfort, bringing it into a place of sharing, of willingness. Let it show me what it wants to show me. But in that way, I've kind of become unblended from it, not as identified with it. So now I'm sitting here being in relationship to some fear or some situation. There's always that abiding, comforting presence that's always there. I may not always be in my awareness. I'm still a student. I'm still working on this, work in progress.
Absolutely.
But what happens over time for me is I get more and more trusting of it.
Yeah. And I think we all are, because like you said, it's a work in progress. It's a continuous work in progress to continuously trust that loving presence, that unconditional space that is there, that is just waiting for you to melt into it and become one with it, right? Yeah, it's a beautiful way. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Dennis, I want to talk a little bit about the crucifixion, and what your thoughts are about that. So look forward to coming back, and then we'll continue on. We'll be right back on the Kornelia Stephanie Show.
Hello, my name is Charlene Hess, and I want to share with you my wonderful experience of choosing to use Kornelia Stephanie as my life coach. My life is so different now from where it was when I began working with her in 2011. At that time, I was in a dysfunctional marriage. I had my own business, I was raising 2 children, and completely dead inside. After working with Kornelia, I began to gain confidence. I began to learn and understand how to use my emotions in my life. I learned how to process the emotions that were stored in my body, the ones that I thought that I had already worked through in my 12 years of counseling prior to working with her. The process that she had taken me through of using my emotions to heal my life, to use my anger to find peace, was absolutely incredible. I have been working with her one-on-one for many years now. And even though I am in a place now where I am thriving in my life, I still refer to Kornelia as my coach, and I still work with her on an ongoing basis where we're always checking in and keeping me accountable in my growth. After working with her for many years, I decided to go through her wholeness certification coaching program, and it has absolutely been an amazing process. I now am a certified empowerment coach, and I got certified through her program, and I am taking clients and helping them to find the empowerment in their lives. One of the things that I love about Kornelia is that she taught me that I am the authority in my own life. And that was a really difficult experience to go through because it was really fighting against all of the dogma and programming that was so ingrained in my brain that all of the authority is outside of me. But as I began to understand and believe and adopt and know the truth that I am the authority in my life is when everything in my life started to shift and change. I became responsible for my decisions. I became responsible for creating a life that I love. And now I'm here in this amazing, beautiful place, living a life of so much happiness and joy. And no matter what life throws at me, I have the tools to be able to approach everything from a place of empowerment. And now I have the ability to help other people do the same. So working with Kornelia has absolutely been the best decision that I've ever made in my life. It has taken me from a life of absolute misery and given me the tools to be able to have a life of absolute, complete joy. So I cannot recommend working with her enough. I hope that you decide to choose to have her as your coach. Go through her empowerment coaching program, go through her wholeness certification, and I guarantee you won't regret it.
Welcome back to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. During the break, Dennis and I were talking about the traditional story about how Jesus died for our sins. We were really bad, and then Jesus died for our sins, and that was the story that was told. And in the Course in Miracles, there's a different story that is told, and that's what we want to. That's the piece that we want to bring out right now. Do you want to talk about that, Dennis?
Sure, I'll do that. But first, a little bit of background. In general, in A Course in Miracles, Jesus doesn't talk much about all the legends and miracles and other things. He's really not interested in history particularly. He's interested in meaning and about healing our thinking. And so he doesn't confirm or deny all those various stories. We don't know if they're true or not, based on A Course anyway. But the one event that he does talk about more extensively is the crucifixion. But even in that, he doesn't give a lot of historical information about it. He's not particularly interested in correcting our point of view about what did or did not happen. What's important is that certainly in Western culture especially, that particular story has been given a meaning, an interpretation. Basically that basically humanity was so bad that this perfect person had to come and die for our sins, and that God had to send him to do that. And frankly, this is a pretty unflattering picture of God and of us. And it was probably one of the things that turned me off the most as I was growing up and later. But he, in talking about the crucifixion, what he really focuses on just is the meaning. He actually doesn't say for certain whether it actually happened or not. You kind of get the feeling that it probably did, but you could actually read it, not necessarily saying that it did or not. But he gives it a different meaning, and it's quite profound. I'll read you a passage here, and we can talk about it. So it says, the real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent, emphasis on apparent, intensity of the assault of some of the sons of God upon another. And sons of God is all of us together. It's not just one guy. This, of course, is impossible and must be understood as impossible. Otherwise, it cannot serve as the model for learning. And he goes on to explain that a little bit more. Assault can ultimately be made only on the body. There's little doubt one body can assault another and can even destroy it. Yet if destruction itself is impossible, anything that's destructible cannot be real. The message of the crucifixion was intended to teach was it's not necessary to perceive any form of assault in persecution. So he's not kind of acknowledging that the appearance, there certainly can be the appearance of assault or persecution. Our body can be assaulted, and our self-concept can be assaulted too. I mean, people can say all kinds of nasty things about me and troll me and do all kinds of things, and that would be maybe an attack on my self-concept. And if I'm identified with that as what I am, then I can feel personally attacked. So he's offering all of us a sense of seeing ourselves as something deeper, as something other than what we thought we were. And that's so much a theme throughout the course. But let me read another line here. There's so many good, in this particular section, but he says, I elected for your sake and mine. So this had something to do with his own learning as well, I gather. I elected for your sake and mine to demonstrate that the most outrageous assault, as judged by the ego, does not matter. As the world judges these things, but not as God knows them, I was betrayed, abandoned, beaten, torn, and finally killed. It was clear that this was only because of the projections of others onto me, since I had not harmed anyone and healed many. I think that's really profound. In the eyes of the world, clearly he was all these things, but he was able to hold a vision that he didn't hold that perception of himself. And to me, with the inspiration there is that in all those many moments which I can feel sort of a victim of the world, I see in much smaller ways than that.
Oh, yeah.
And I can start to feel myself feeling a victim of a situation or of the world or someone. It's kind of a little reminder that it's possible to see this in a different way. It's possible for me to just kind of, not that I have to do it like he did it and be martyred in that same way. In fact, it says, I don't call for martyrs, but for teachers. But it's like it's opening a possibility of no matter what the provocation, there is a place in me where I can see myself as not harmed. Even though the parts that may be visible are. I'll read another line. You're free to perceive yourself as persecuted if you choose. When you do choose to react that way, however, you might remember, I was persecuted as the world judges, and I did not share this evaluation for myself. I undertook to show this was true in an extreme case, merely because it would serve as good teaching. As a good teaching aid to those whose temptation to get into anger and assault would not be so extreme. So I'll just tell you, I once had an experience of, and I don't know why this sort of popped to mind right now, but it did. So, and it had to do with a few years ago. I was actually helping to promote a workshop for somebody who is now a very famous A Course in Miracles teacher, but he wasn't then. And it involved going to a church where I thought there would be some open-mindedness to coming to this particular event. And during the course of this, there was a call to come up for communion. And at that point, I was kind of nervous about doing that. I didn't know that I wanted to kind of do that. I was still in struggle about it. But I went because I thought it would be more embarrassing to be the only one sitting there that didn't go. So I went. But as I got there and I felt the sense of constriction, I realized that I'm being fearful right now. And so maybe I can take a breath here and just open to a bigger possibility. And so they're kind of talking about the theology of Jesus dying for us. And as I opened myself to just kind of receiving some guidance about it, what I got was that Jesus died to his ego.
Beautiful.
He died to his ego, and so that created the kind of the example of I could die to my ego. We can die to our ego. And as I experienced that, something just let go inside. I was fine with the whole process. And I could sort of start to sense the people around me because I'm no longer in this constriction. And I could feel there's a guy on my left, and I could just feel the intensity of passion this guy's feeling, a sense of profound gratitude. And I was pretty sure it was completely different theology than what I had, but there was a sense of gratitude, of gratefulness. Different story that got us there. And I thought it was a great illustration of there's a universal experience that really is beyond whatever the theologies might be. It was a lovely teaching.
Excellent. And excellent awareness on your part, dying to the ego. This is the reason why I have this Heaven on Earth show, because again, we die many deaths every single day, right? We can die 1,000 times when we surrender and release and let go of what's no longer serving us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I want to say something about that awareness on my part. It actually, what it was a willingness to surrender on my part.
Absolutely, because
it was a willingness to let go of my perspective, because then something moved through me. The awareness was a gift.
Yes, because exactly, it wouldn't have been able to happen had you not surrendered.
That's true. And I was aware, the part I can claim here is I was aware that I'm in a place of constriction and I'm not open. And so I could let that go.
Yes.
And then something else could come through. And so another great learning.
And the miracle happened. And the miracle happened.
Absolutely, it happened. Absolutely, it happened.
Right? The miracle happened and you experienced this incredible awareness through it. And I mean, this is actually such high truth right there, is dying to the ego. The ego has always been separate, kept us separate from our truth. Not to say that the ego is wrong or bad, not placing judgment there. However, that has been our place of separation. And when we can release and surrender onto a greater spirit and surrender and let go, that is when the true miracle can happen. And that's what happened for you.
Yeah, I mean, basically the ego is simply a way of thinking that allows the experience of separation. So yeah. we personify it and talk about the ego does this or that, but it's just simply a way of thinking that actually its job, you could think of, is to allow us to keep this experience of separation until we're ready to not do it anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, do you have another quote that you wanted to share with us before we go to break again, Dennis?
Well, there was one, actually. Let's see here. And there it is. There was one of the ones here, because there's a very loving message that Jesus in A Course in Miracles conveys. And sometimes it's through words. And I want to just share with this one. And when I hear this one, it's kind of imagine this one being spoken to you, like I do. I treasure you beyond the value you set on yourself, even unto the worth that God has placed upon you. My faith in you is as strong as all the love I give my Father. My trust in you is without limit. I thank the Father for your loveliness and for the many gifts that you will let me offer. In honor of this holiness, in honor of this wholeness that is of God. To me, that is such a profoundly loving message.
Yeah, say it again.
The whole thing? You want to? Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'll read you another one. How about that? It's a little shorter than that one. You do not love yourself, but in his eyes, your loveliness is so complete and flawless that he sees in it an image of his Father. To you, he looks for hope, because in you he sees no limit and no stain to mar your beautiful perfection. In his eyes, Christ's vision shines in perfect constancy. He has remained with you.
It's beautiful. Now, the goal is to have, if everyone can see themselves that way.
Absolutely.
That is, every time when you look in the mirror or you look into someone else's eyes, as I'm looking into your eyes right now, seeing that is the representation of what you just said. Seeing
yes.
the Christ's eyes, seeing through God's eyes, seeing the truth, because that is the truth.
That is. And the way we learn to do that is seeing it in other people.
Seeing it in other people, exactly.
Is the step towards them, because we can't see it in others unless we can experience. Then it kind of cues us, okay, it's in me too.
Absolutely. just like me. Exactly.
Just like me, yes.
That's a beautiful one. Now, we're going to skip the break, Dennis, because I'm realizing that we've got less than 10 minutes left, and so I wanted to be sure that we wrap up. And
Well, I remember you had something you wanted to talk about here. You had a program that you wanted to tell everybody about. So do you want to?
Well, I do, and that is my upcoming Change Your Mind Summit that is launching on June 11th, and it's a free online event where 11 powerful master speakers are gathering online to offer tools and support and techniques for anyone that is ready to experience deep change in their life. There's all kinds of practical tools that's being shared through this online event, and it's free. So anyone that is ready to ride the wave of change instead of resisting it, because we are experiencing huge change on this planet, and we are offering amazing tools for you to ride the wave of change. So you can go to changeyourmind.us and register there for a free online event beginning June 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there's also a lot of Facebook sharings that are being done, and you can check that out at Kornelia Stephanie Facebook. And join us, because it's going to be one amazing event. So,
Oh, thank you. Sounds wonderful, Kornelia.
Yeah.
Sounds fabulous.
Thank you. Now, Dennis, how has the course impacted you?
Over the years, oh my gosh, so many different ways. But some of them I've alluded to. There's an abiding presence inside that I can always come back to. That's probably the biggest thing. And so when I'm tempted to feel alone or isolated or separate, it's like I can take a breath and come back to that. Mm-hmm. But it does more than just be a presence. It actually can offer some help with moving through this world as well. And for me, the main one that is the most consistent is if I'm willing to let my perception of a situation or a person or even myself go. To the degree I'm willing to do that, it can show me another way of seeing. And then that actually will guide what would be another way of responding to whatever the situation is that there's a certain clarity with that. And the way, when I'm willing to let my own sense of whatever it is go, whatever comes from that place, it's always more inclusive, more loving, and ultimately wiser. Sometimes in either working with someone or with a group or something, sometimes there's a little guidance that comes, for me, mostly in the form of little intuitive prompts. I don't necessarily get long philosophical discourses that I know people who seem to get that. That's not what it's been for me. It's more that just helps me move and act in a more loving kind of way. But what that also makes it a little bit easier to just kind of hold this whole dream that we're walking in a little bit more lightly. It's like, this is too important to take seriously. I still have to have my experience. I'm still having my experience here, and there are still parts of me that attach to it, but it's a little easier to just hold it a little bit more lightly and to be willing to step back and take another look and actually really to be much less self-critical, self-attacking. There's the critical voice is still there, but it's tempered a lot, and I can bring another presence in with it. And it's facilitated my inner work. There's a presence inside. There's a self inside that all the little scared little boy parts, the angry teenager parts, all those guys can kind of come there and just be kind of held, acknowledged, and listened to from a place of compassion. That's come about not only A Course in Miracles, but a lot of other psychological work that I've done and teach as well. So there have been a lot of benefits. Plus, I find it there's been a part of me since I was a little kid that always wanted to get to the bottom of stuff. I was always like what's under the rock, what's underneath that rock? Of course, then there was oh, Mom, can I bring it home? No, you can't bring scorpions home or whatever it was. But I find in a certain way, I still kind of, I'm a little kid who wants to turn over the rock and find what the deeper layer is. And I find that actually the Course kind of, and other teachings as well. I can't say it's just the Course, but the Course actually has there's a psychological profoundness to it that has helped me understand things both in myself and others in a much deeper way than some of the normal psychology that I've studied. It kind of goes beyond it.
Yeah. It sounds like with you talking about the Course, what I feel like with you and the Course is that you have become it. And that's what I feel like you've become it in your own way, in your own time. It's almost like that's just what I feel. I feel like you have become it, and now through your studies, through your facilitations, through your daily practice, through your challenges and whatever, now you have this greater loving awareness and this deep abiding peace that is within you that ripples out and really affects and touches other people because it's palpable. You can feel it. You can feel it.
Yeah, well, that's the Course for me has been one of the guides to just that presence inside, and it's the presence inside that goes with me, and it goes with. It can come in many ways, but that was the way it was for me. That's how it has been for me.
Yeah, and what freedom is that? Because this to have this loving awareness, this unconditional love, this compassion itself that is leading the way instead of the fearful, critical, egotistical energy, right? The conditioning of our past.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, and we are forging a new way. And like Christ would say, what I have done, you can do greater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like that is one of my mottos, is that I love that, because I really feel that this is what we're all doing now in our awakening, in our spiral of evolution right now, is moving into our greatest human potential, doing greater things than what Jesus has taught us, because we all can. And actually we must.
We're doing it. We're doing it in our own way, in little ways, big ways. We're doing it.
Yes, absolutely. And every little bit counts, right? Every little bit counts. And it's all about, it's all about the love, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And willingness, our willingness to recognize what's coming up in the way, our veils, and then to hold them lightly and allow another awareness to come through us.
Yes.
And let that guide us. And that's a powerful gift for each of us. And as we share it, it gets strengthened in ourselves.
Dennis, it's been a wonderful hour. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in. Thank you for bringing this beautiful conversation with the Course in Miracles and discovering another path to freedom. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time on the Dennis Gaither, Kornelia Stephanie Show. See you next month with Dennis Gaither. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Blessings to everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Janet Hickox, and I want to tell you a little story about a story, and how my friend Kornelia Stephanie helped me through to the other end of that story. I have gone from the dark of a story I was telling myself that wasn't true to the light of optimism to see my way out of where I was and to where I want to go. And it all started with her scheduling a session for me to help me reclaim my money or my financial empowerment. Up until that point, I had been telling the story that my business was dying, that my business was not successful anymore. And the more I tried to figure out what was going on, the worse I felt about it. And when I had to get ready to do the session with Kornelia, she asked me to go look at the numbers and where I was through the year to date, and then also to come prepared with a number that I wanted to raise my income to. Well, I was quite comfortable with that part, right? I knew where I wanted to be. What I wasn't comfortable with doing is going and looking up those numbers. But I made myself do it, even though I tried to backpedal my way out of the session. She didn't know that, but I was going to try to get myself out of the session. And I looked up those numbers. And it was incredible that I discovered through that process that my business wasn't dying. In fact, I was doing 12% better than I had the year before. So I was shocked. I was shocked literally at the power of the story that I had been telling for months. But more than that, I was shocked that I had allowed myself to get there. And later in that day when I had my session with Kornelia, she pointed out some very obvious things, like, how are you going to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go? How are you going to get there if you don't have the goals written out, if you don't have it set up so that you know where you are and where you're going to go? Totally makes sense, right? I had been in business, somebody else's business, as a sales manager for years, and I was a national sales manager. I had awards for sales management. I had business awards because of numbers. And yet when it came to doing my own business, I totally forgot all that I'd ever learned. So by the time Kornelia, working with me in just one session, got me to look deeper at the numbers and where did I want to go, and actually, claiming where I wanted to go, I was filled with a sense of optimism and hope like you can't believe. It was like everything shifted for me. And I am so looking forward to our continued sessions to see how far I can really push myself to get where I've only dreamed of being, where I've never taken the dream and actually brought it into concrete existence. So thank you, Kornelia, for the work that you're doing out there. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see where I go from here.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.